How you doing?
Good morning.
Appreciate you.
Mr. Chairman and committee, my name is Frank Smith. I'm the Deputy Executive Director for the State Properties Commission. I want to introduce my Executive Director, Marty Smith, State Property Officer, sitting behind me. You asked me to come talk a little bit about process and then specifically the two Gulch parcels, and you should have several pictures in your folders. In a couple months now, I'll probably, Lord willing, be sitting in front of you talking about resolutions for conveying property, whether it be an easement or a conveyance of property. That's one way property gets authorized by the General Assembly. The other way is by what we call an expedited method. And that method is if the value of the property is less than $500,000, our agency sends letters to the affected legislators, senators, reps, Speaker's office, Lieutenant Governor's office, chairman of both House and Senate committee, and the Governor's office. And the letter says our intent is to sell this property to this person for this amount of money. If you have no objection, there's nothing you need to do. It's a notice. If you have objection, please notify us in writing of your objection, and then we'll stop that process and then bring it to the full General Assembly. So that was created about 4 or 5 years ago to try to kind of keep the wheels of operations going outside of the January through March window, so we could keep things moving along quicker.
Frank, I appreciate that. Ms. Smith, I'm sorry. We appreciate that. But a little background on that, if you would. And
Sure.
we can talk about the Gulch area down there and the great impact it's having in that area. And I'm very appreciative of the work you're doing now. The reason for this is to bring our committee up to date, because sometimes in the past, maybe on behalf of myself, I may have dropped the ball, but I want my committee members to understand the significance of what's happening there, the renovation projects, and what an impact it's going to have. You got $5 billion, $700 million to raise the street and that kind of thing. Right. It's really transforming that area. So, but I wanted to be brought up to date on that. That you understand?
Sure.
You can just give them a little snippet of that. Not long. Just give us a little snippet of the little broad picture of that, if you would. Right.
So in 2018, part of that omnibus resolution that was brought before this committee was the state selling its ownership rights in what we know as the Gulch. It's about I'm sure you know, about a 30-acre portion right next to the World Congress Center, depressed area. When I mean depressed, just below a lot of the street level. The state's interest was air rights, and that was a very interesting conversation of, what are air rights? Well, in essence, air rights are the Fulton County Rec Authority owned the ground, and we, the state, had air rights above 26 feet above their ground up to the top of a parking deck. So we, in essence, owned a parking deck or a corridor of air, and that certainly has value. You rarely see outside of like downtown Atlanta air rights being sold, because you talk about where there are high-rise buildings. So our portion was about 9 acres of air rights that the state owned. We sold that to CIM, which is the developer who you talked about, Mr. Chairman, who is contemplating or planning to invest $5 billion into that area, the jobs, the streets, the developments, etc. So that was done in 2018. What the pictures that are in your package are 2 small slivers that were not part of that sale. And the World Congress Center has approached us, and really the World Congress Center and CIM would like for us to convey these parcels to the World Congress Center, for the World Congress Center to use these as leverage with CIM. A $5 billion development and this many people coming down to this area is going to have a huge impact on traffic and access to the World Congress Center campus. Giving these 2 parcels to the World Congress Center will allow them that leverage and that seat at the table with CIM to help them manage the access to their campus and to their facilities. So the pictures you see in there, it's 2 parcels that were discussed. One is 0.044 of an acre. To put that in context, that's about the size of this room, about 2,000 square feet. So a very small parcel of land, and the other one is 0.215 of an acre. a little bit larger, about 9,000 square feet. So we would contemplate conveying those two parcels, two small slivers, to the World Congress Center to work in conjunction with CIM as part of the greater Gulch development project of 30 acres or so.
Any questions or comments from members of the committee? Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Harbison, or Chairman Harbison. Does the World Congress Center plan to convey these to CIM, or I may have messed up the acronym?
You did. You're right. Probably. They may ground lease them. They may convey them to them. Really, the purpose for World Congress Center is to get a seat at the table as CIM designs. There's going to be a hotel there. There's going to be retail there. If you can see, I don't know how well Elliott Street is depicted on your map, but Elliott Street is a 2-lane street right now. CIM's plans contemplate a hotel and retail development accessing and using Elliott Street as ingress and egress. World Congress Center already uses that as a rear access and egress to Mercedes-Benz and their facilities. So you're talking about a significant amount of traffic on Elliott Street that World Congress Center wants to manage. And these properties, whether they're sold, leased, or whatever to CIM, will allow the Congress Center to have that seat at the table and say, you know, hey, I know you're a $5 billion investor, but you know, hey, you need to look out for the state and look out for World Congress Center when it comes to access.
Yeah. A follow-up, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the presentation of this, and I don't mean to spring this on you here, and I apologize I haven't talked about it before. Just my concern would be, I don't see where the Georgia World Congress Center can represent the state's interest any better than the state could represent the state's interest at the table. So I do need to know more about this as it moves forward. I do understand how that would give the Georgia World Congress Center leverage. I don't understand how that necessarily gives the state more leverage. So I look forward to discussing that more with you, and really appreciate the chairman starting this process today. Otherwise, you know, sometimes we can't have that opportunity to work through it. And thank you so much for being here to go through that too.
And in addition to that, Mr. Chairman, by way of the people who are not here, it's a very complex project they put together. Our commission did a great job in putting it together, and I knew this was a part of it, and I just wanted to make sure we didn't get, you know, said, oh, what is this on the floor, and that kind of thing. So I think we will go much smoother, and we can get everybody on the same page and working to get our project and the project completed down there. So we appreciate what you've done, the time you've taken to come here and talk to us about it, and let us know. And based on what the chairman is saying over here, Chairman Tillery, you know, I don't know where they got the first information they sent. I read it, and that's when I looked at it. I said, wait, that's part of that Gulch area down there. It's a huge deal, you know, and I wanted to make sure we were in the right ballpark about it. I don't think there's nothing nefarious, anything like that. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and I project that we're going to be okay with it, but I just want us to look at it and get the information, and you know, although it's under that $5.5 million, I think you said.
500,000.
About 500,000.
And again, the property is about the size of this room. So
I understand.
That's why the cost is small.
I understand, but we just wanted to procedurally make sure that we understood it, if you don't mind that.
Absolutely.
Any other comments, questions? So if our posture is, if you could provide us with a little update on it individually, and we can, I don't see any real objection to it. I'm just saying, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I want to make sure we all very comfortable when it comes to it, even if it doesn't, that, you know, we were informed and it's gone. Is that good?
Absolutely, yes,
All right.
sir.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? We're hearing like only, so no action needed unless I get a suggestion from members of the committee. I'm down with Mr. Chairman over there. Otherwise, we really appreciate your time, and we'll take a look at it, and if you come back and let us go ahead and we'll
keep you
move on it.
updated.
Yeah, we'll be timely about it. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Mr.
your
Chairman.
time. Thank you both for coming down.
Thank y'all very
Thank you.
much.
Appreciate it. Otherwise, we stand adjourned. Thank you, sir.